Alright, Chapter 4, Job Task Inventory. We're going to read the tables separate in a different note of book. Introduction. As noted in the section 1, 2 of the analysis step of the determination training with the requirements you with the comprehensive listing eye with the analysis skill with the necessary safe with the effective with the efficient proficient performance job, locomotive engineering development, such for the inventory specified with the project with the draft with the provides common reference to the locomotive engineering program, start with the wood, A with the identifiable commonality, difference of the program and the inventory would also serve as the hub base for the developing core module training program. Initial inventory efforts, the general description, locomotive engineering job of the following general description expired with the hail of the Jacob start with the locomotive engineering job is given that they provide with the consist on takes appreciation contributions of the individual task road engineer, individual immediate with the direct control of the motion of the train responsible for the all directions, stick with the control of the train, move with the stop with the train, with the acting, and with the speed, with the produce, with the stop, with the beyond, with the almost exercise, with the discretion, care, vigilancy, and move with the train, so with the prevent injury, with the damage, and carrying his duties, several of the basic with the function, with the capacity, with the clearly must be within the repository of the engineer, must for the particular motor coordination, the ability to perceive information effect with the shape of the control training, with the integrate with the information, with the smooth effectiveness, with the shape of the control, with the train B, with the brake on power system, with the control information comes from the entire visual surrounding, with the outside information from the dials of the gauge within the cab, of the auditory cost, cues and vestibulatory cues produced with the train motion from the information must be brought with a timely manner and come with a substantial control of the lag with a graded internal force with the modern freight train with 150 or more carriers with a length of approximately probably 15,000 tons within weight, with the engineer must have the ability to take control of the action, throttle, brakes, the decision, and the bands with the serve with the territorial features, have curved with the grade craft, etc. for safely control of the train at all times. He should possess the sound capability, clear, concise with the oral communication, be with the train radio, with the dispatcher and train crew. Long-term memory with the railroad operating rule, with the layout, with the control, with the display, with the locomotive, with the operating physical feature, with the operating, with the territory, with the need, with the short-term, with the memory, with the web, with the advisory, with the chain, with the load, with the train, or the receiver en route. Such are also required with the engineer possesses the observation skill for the conduct with the inspection for the cab of the engine, for the room, with the exterior of the locomotive, with the promptly detect malfunctions, breakdown with the locomotive engine consists. Foremost, almost with it has many with the talents, engineer must demonstrate vigilance and capacity, the attentive with all critical information, the input with the route, with the several hour trip with the relatively confined workspace with the locomotive cab. Preliminary inventory. The preliminary inventory task comprehensive with the job with the diesel electric locomotive engineer with the local with the road freight with the operation derived with the report with the obtained with the literature survey with the section 2. 3 efforts identified each of the result of the last one, at least one published released with the engineering task. Historically, each one of the 3 efforts were built upon the preceding work and incidental development. Some of them specific the locomotive cab, some of the McDonnell Douglas Corporation compiled with the inventory with the engineering task with the BTOP with the similarity to 1972. The Federal Railroad Administration commissioned McDonnell with the Douglas to organize with the categories of the task form with the good be with the basic society with the regulatory need with the Federal Railroad Safety Act of 1970. The result of the effort published in the technical report. The FRA later contracted with the Dunlap and associated with incorporated and integrated with the addition of the material with the McDonnell Douglas slip with the Purdue with the Minnesota with the minimum scholarly skill with the report requirements demonstrate with the safety training operation along with the estimates for the minimum amount of the training needed to achieve these requirements as the result of this effort the publisher of the report with the author of Hales and Jacob. In support of an issue of the being of the band of the Brotherhood Locomotive Engineering Trainment of the expertly of the foreman of the dimension with the task inventory to develop and adopt the set of the minimum skill performance requirement of locomotive engineering with the requirements were published in full state with the trailing instruction and system Incorporated. 3.2 Revised Preliminary Inventory. With the preliminary job task inventory was submitted with the project steering committee with the review, modification with the list, with the provide with the review, with the consider with the still one or more with the refining and improve with the inventory. 4.3 Analyzing the task looking for the training program with the purpose of the analysis. It was hoped that the matching with the training with the check with the provide with the participating railroad with the provide with the preliminary job task inventory. Certainly the with the information would be derived with the first subset with the task with the expect with the identified with the will appeared. And all selected program of the groups of the task called commonalities with the core module of the model training. The second of the task unique of the particular railroad with the few railroad with the difference could be organized optional module of the model program for you with the D of them and the third with the hope for the new task with the uncover the declared leave with the additional core operational module of the model program. Result of the analysis for the aim of the task inventory analysis provided to the optimist for the railroad training programs they have developed almost completely without aid of the technique for the theories of the associated with the system-oriented training development. Therefore, the curriculum solved with the training material with the substitute with the participating railroad simply did not exhibit the particular training of the objectives that were not available. The direct comparison with the item of the job task inventory. However, they did not produce the analysis for the training program, but it did not change with the nature for the analysis of the present for the task item of the training program. Now had to be the inferred with the materials available. Therefore, the task item was to travel by the course with the outline, less plans, the instructor guidelines. Test, student guidance and handout with the workbooks. It was the record recorded as being part of the training program that should be with the absence of the test item in a program analyzed with in no way implied with the items covered in the training, but simply mean with the present could not be interfered by the directly with the materials provided. The table 4.1 and 4.2. Some of the rise with the result of the analysis, either the table basically with a portion of the provided the preliminary job of the inventory. Table 4.1 to list for the child now the items over the inventory with the number of the appear with the right of the item that refer to the number of the railroad's training program of the participating 6 railroad with the evidence of the training with that item and infer with the table 4.2 with the consist of the job of the performance of the item of the inventory. Again with the number show with the number of the program job with the cover of the item with the addition with the letter with the indicating the train method that U with the file. D indicates U for the demonstrating mock-up. O indicates on the job training. T indicates for the training dynamic analyzer. S indicates for the full task locomotive train similar. 4.3 discussion of the result of the number of the data with the spare city with the entry with the number of the program with the table 4.1 and 4.2. So for the explanation first, the cover all the railroad sample the draw with the training with the advantages the railroad employed with all the training start with the engineering program they have the receive of the basic training with the railroad organization operating and safety rules. Thus, such of the items that do not appear with the documentation engineering training program. Stick with the documentation script of the training program. Often are more the general level organization than the detailed job task item. The number of task items have been applied with a single head with the documents could not be with a record with the tabulation for the documents supplied with the analysts for the time been applied with the representative of all of the given the railroad train documentation. We have either misunderstanding of the project proposed with the analytical procedure with the reluctancy to release proprietary material. The review of the document listed with the table 3.1 through 3.6 suggests the list as that it may be in the case. So another reason both of the overall sparsity of the data with the imbalance of the data with the table of 4.1 and 4.2 with the fact of the document received with the preliminary on the classroom with the training more likely to yield the data with the knowledge item with the performance task. Performance items, and even with the model training dynamic and analytic with the similar permanence with the performance training with the classroom, much for the development of the performance skill structure still occur with the during hands-on experience with the OJT. Because of the reason lack of the number of the right with any with the time item with the tables 4.1 and 4.2 with the don't imply with the item that is in top of the 6 of the locomotive engineering training program with the fact of the observation training the progress of the interview with the instructor for the training is provided ample and undocumented evidence of the if not all of the object items of job task inventories. Address the list some of the training program sample the communication commonality difference of the differences among the personality railroad with the training program the address for the various side with the job task inventory or matter of the content of the intent of the difference between the two railroads with the program the training with the knowledge operating rules is due to any difference to educational philosophy but rather due to the fact of the rules themselves of the different each of the railroad has its own rules perhaps partnered after the AR standard code of the operation but unique for the content because of the unique complex for the regulation organization geographic climate determination of how the individuals must operate significantly the locomotive engineering training program the difference of the emphasis of the performance task item the difference of the act like most likely to reflect the difference for the railroad operation requirement, the rather the educational theory. For example, the railroad operating in northern climate that simply must develop more training with the requirement we serve the cold weather operation for the operating in a more temperature climate. If included, observe the commandment analysis at the general level, the different specific level of all of the railroad survey to address must also have the job task and inventory with the way to address for these tasks. Necessarily differ from the differing operating conditions. Conclusions suggest the model training program most concept of the approach with the modular structure, concentration on why and what the details on when and how must be addressed in individual railroads. Adequacy of the job task inventory comparing with the result of the task and information from the literature, particularly with the National Transportation Safety Board, started to give the confidence, including that all relief preliminary job task inventory covers must not all of the tasks should be addressing with the creating a model training of the program should be used. Further analysis, job task analysis only the first step and proposed analysis of the training programs. Appendix A of the section 5 describes the procedure finding with additional analyzing. And then it goes into tables, which we'll do in a separate tape.